Welcome to another episode of An Echo of Glory. And it's getting boring, this, coming on after another win. It's 5 wins in a row, and we will rejoice in that fact today. Joining me, Johnny Blaine, is Ollie Spiro. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. And welcome back to the show, Jake Saunders. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. Chipper, come on.
As you say, it's boring.
He's bored.
We've got nothing to moan about.
Where you been, man? Where you been? Greece.
Athens.
So you were away for how many games?
Only one game, actually. But since I've seen you, it's been 3.
Which game were you away for? United.
United.
Oh, you were at a wedding?
Yeah.
Right, come on then. So did the game span across the wedding?
Yeah, it was a 6:30 kickoff, 2 hours ahead. Reception was at 4:30, so it was the ceremony was at 4:30, so it was sort of during the reception,
right,
and at the start of the meal, and I was just getting WhatsApp updates, and it was a lot more, stress-free than probably any of us expected. I said to my friend when was the third goal? Maybe 70 minutes.
Bit later, yeah.
I said, I can't believe we're sitting here like. That's it. Don't need to check my phone anymore. Sort of done and dusted now. 20 minminutes to go. 3-0 up. 10 men.
It's quite a stress-free way of following Spurs. Actually, not having to watch them.
I said that because someone said to me, "Oh, you're going to get it on your phone," and I just thought, if you don't get it on your phone, you just don't. You miss the sort of United chances. Werner missing 14 one-on-ones. Quite nice. And then obviously, late on, I just thought, oh, whatever.
Johnny's great to get WhatsApp game updates from. Often he'll be my sort of pathway through, because also remember when he's on his day job and he's in the studio, he's actually a few seconds ahead of everyone. And also being the pessimist like I am, and having lived through X number of years of this ridiculous football team shooting itself in the foot, Johnny's perfect to it was our corner, now it's their corner. But that type of chat. Throw on Spurs, corner them.
I said to my brother, and I always say this when everyone updates me, I just want goals and red cards. I don't want to know, someone was doing it in the North London derby, and I didn't want to know if we were on top. I just want to know goal, goal, Bruno red, no problem.
We've sort of done this before.
Brackets, but then went back for last night.
Daniel Story made a great point on Twitter last night. Could Bruno Fernandes, if he gets sent off at Villa on Sunday, become the first player to be sent off in 3 consecutive games? Because obviously he's got sent off
and then rescinded.
Well, it's rare that can happen, isn't it? Because obviously
it can't happen because you're going to serve a suspension.
Well, no,
but then surely as a cricket man, you appreciate the fact that you can still, like Romero was suspended from Milan through to Karabag. He's still playing in a consecutive game, but I appreciate. Yeah, I think that's an excellent stat.
I guess international it would have to be, wouldn't it?
Or he could get sent off.
He was an international break.
He wants to play for Portugal, doesn't he?
Who, Bruno?
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Just going back to your wedding situation, places where we're old, me and you, Ollie. Like I said before, I once had to get Spurs results on a pager when I was watching Lee Evans. We beat Liverpool 3-0. I was at a
3-1.
3-1 in the League Cup in was it 98, 99?
It was when we won
the year we won it, so I'm guessing 99, yeah.
Watching a comedian Lee Evans, it was coming through on my pager.
Was he actually funny, or...?
He was funny, yeah.
Okay.
Who, John Scales? I don't know.
John Scales, yeah.
Right, Ian Sinfield's been on the comments. Good morning, Echoes. It's Friday. It is Friday, and it's a winning Friday. We are going to start with a bit of club news, as we always do. A couple of other teams had games this week. We'd have no defeat to mention. The under-21s played in this new National League Cup, which nobody really wants to play in. Certainly not the National League teams. They drew 5-5 at Dagenham and Redbridge before winning 5-3 on penalties. This club has really changed. They're now winning penalty shootouts and scoring them all. The women won 2-1 at Charlton in the League Cup. Late goal from Gary's mate, Jess Nars. You said to me yesterday you'd read an article on Johan Langer. You want to talk about that or save it for Monday?
Well, actually, I think it can be saved for... I said that we could save it for next week because obviously the games are going to stop and we're going to have the horrible 2-week international break, but there was a theme that came through from last night actually, which was very much within the article, talking about the sort of long-term structure of the club. And then last night we've got 4 under teenagers playing, so it's a sort of demonstrative sort of view that what Langer is trying to do is on the pitch now with the young players coming through. So there would seem like a structure. And that's obviously on top of the fact that the rest of the team is incredibly young, save for Werner and Davis in the team. So it fits that narrative. But I think we should talk about it next week because it is very much, when you get to an international break, you take much more of a sort of like a a helicopter view of the club as opposed to getting drawn down onto
Into
the detail
games.
of a game.
All right, another thing that happened this week, Dom Solanke in the England squad. Good for him. We don't want our players playing because obviously we always like, he's going to get injured. But for him,
he'll be all right though. Because he's probably not going to start, is he? So
no.
hopefully he get.
Well, Kane's not
Yeah,
fit.
well, I don't know who else is in. Is there
Watkins? Well, it'll be Watkins surely. I didn't see. Did Tony?
No, I don't think Tony made it. He's
So he's going to get minutes, and I think we discussed this last week. It's the vindication of his career choice to move from Bournemouth to Spurs, and yeah, he's playing well. No doubt about it. So good. Well done to him.
Is that why he's in?
well because he plays for Spurs. Well,
He'd made because I saw the whole now he's gone to Tottenham. There's more eyes on him. And the fact that he scored 3 and 3 was probably spoken about a lot more than if he'd scored 3 and 3 for Bournemouth. But he does deserve to be.
It's a shame that we said at the time when we signed him, and I think to Darren Bent and last week, if he'd scored 19 goals for Spurs last season, he'd have gone to the Euros. I know that Tony were having a good season in the Prem, but he'd have gone to the Euros.
Well, Tony didn't even have that good a season.
It's true, actually. You're right. He didn't.
Tony scored not many.
I mean, of course, we gave Tony a goal, but I don't think Tony was especially that good. But I think totally well deserved. Maddison didn't.
I think he needs another few games for Maddison. He might have got it.
But I was talking to my dad about this, and I was, England are absolutely blessed in that role at the moment.
They don't really need him.
Yeah, and he's coming at a bad time for a number 10 when you've got Palmer, Foden, Grealish is probably him or Grealish really.
Yeah. Another comment from Padani82. And Padani82 is one of our Echo of Glory members. Join him. There's some good content in the members area. We're going to be doing some more, but he's one of our Echo members. Padani, live and well, feeling spoiled with 2 shows this week. Well, yeah, that is what's happening on an Echo here. We do like to give back. And like I say, thanks to Padani for being one of our members. Join him, do that, become part of the community. Just want to, we're going to go straight in now on last night. If I can find the lineup. Vicario in goal. Back four, Porro, Romero, Gray and Davies. Saar, Basuma and Bergvall in midfield. Moore, Lancashire and Werner. So 4 teenagers in the starting 11. First time we've done that in a European game since 2009. Did you see those names from 2009?
I remember that game. I really do.
Yeah.
Obika.
Obika, Gunter, some guy called Bale. Don't know what happened to him. And Giovanni Dos Santos. I'm
pretty sure it was the first day before the 2009 League Cup final that we lost to United, and I'm pretty sure Harry just completely sacked it off. And they had a really good team then.
Shakhtar. They were a good side.
I think they had like Fernandinho and a few others, and yeah, I'm pretty sure that we sacked it off.
It was a 1-1 draw. Giovanni scored. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Did Fernandinho score?
It was just before the League Cup final, as you say.
They had a few names.
Who scored for Shakhtar? Fernandinho. And we'd lost the first leg 2-0.
I have an unbelievable memory of 80s and 90s football.
Yeah.
Then it gets into the 2000s and the 2010, not a clue. I have no recollection of that game.
I wonder why.
No
right, idea. Daz himself, live. Let's go watching from Newcastle, Australia. We are global on an Echo of Glory.
G'day, mate.
G'day, mate. So, yeah, that was the lineup. 4 teenagers.
8 changes, was it?
8 changes? I think 3 players survived from
Romero, Porro, and
goalie.
Vicario,
yeah.
So used to a swapping.
We've talked about changes. I've talked about our away record. 1 win in 9 in Europe. That was Marseille. Going further back, it's rubbish. I think you said Partizan Belgrade was our previous win. We weren't sure. We've had some really, really poor away performances in Europe.
Partizan.
I come on down. Go on.
I was going to say, it was the least partisan crowd I've ever seen. It felt like a family day out, which is great. Great from you'll think Thursday night. It was
4 teenagers being thrown in as well.
Awful weather.
It's good for them that it's not partisan.
Yeah, no, it's great. So it seemed like a really nice atmosphere, and you have these views of sometimes going to these sort of Central/Eastern European countries, and we played. Who was the team we played under Poch? We said earlier on.
Partizan.
Was it Partizan Belgrade?
We played both, and Red Star and Partizan.
And that is like
the cauldron.
Horrific. It's a cauldron. Whereas last time was just lovely. It was a really nice family day out. so yeah, that was quite helpful for us.
We've got one on the horizon.
Galatasaray. Not going to be.
They'll ramp that up a little bit.
They can't defend, by the way. I watched a bit of their game last night against the Latvian side. They were 2 up and drew 2-2.
They've got centre half for them, haven't they?
Davinson.
Yes.
Well, I was going to mention him because we've brought these players in and we've talked about making too many changes in Europe and we talk about all these away performances in Europe. Pacos Ferreira, it's the same away performance every time we make these changes. It wasn't that last night. Actually, I think you said it on the WhatsApp chat. We made changes and you're seeing Bergvall, who are the 4 teenagers? Bergvall, Gray, Moore and Lancashire.
And Sar's only 20,
right?
He? So.
But you'd rather see them than, with respect, your Sanchez, Skip, Hill,
100%.
Lo Celso. With respect to those players,
two of the biggest things for me were, firstly, you've not got those squad players that have really sort of accepted their fate, like the Winkses and Dombele, Sanchez, Baez. Remember that team that went to
the
Vitesse, and it was just an absolute.
Yeah, notional B team.
The notional B team,
You've got young players that really want to prove themselves. And what I found was a massive difference, even from Coventry, right? I know Adogi played, but we had 3 out of our back 5, and I thought that made such a big difference. I thought Vicario was brilliant. Brilliant from crosses. Having don't want to upset anyone, our captain out there. Romero's our captain. I know he doesn't always wear the armband. He is our leader. And having Porro out there made such a difference.
Yeah.
And that was even with an 18-year-old playing, left centre back or wherever he played.
How good is he, by the way?
Wow.
But it just made a massive difference to have a little bit of a base of your... And I'd happily, for the next game, I don't know if he'd want to keep playing Romero, but play Adogi and then you rest Porro, but keep playing Vicario. I felt like that made a massive difference. Huge.
Yes. Well, I think there's also the fact that any of the other options in goal are...
Well, he went with him in a knockout cup tie recently, so...
And it nearly backfired.
Yeah, exactly.
He was pretty awful.
I mean, and then the last time he used him, we did go out of said cup ties. So
yes, correct.
And also, we'll keep on coming back to this, but the decision to not pick Spence and put in Forster, is because he'd again would have been really useful for that. These extra legs last night.
Especially after United, it'd be on a massive high.
Emotional.
Do you think there was also a part of it? We've picked up a couple of muscular injuries. Son didn't travel. Udogie didn't travel. Richarlison's still out. We've got a game in 2.5 days. You think he looked at it and was always going to pick this team? Apparently, Moore didn't know he was starting until 4 p.m. But I think Ange would have known that in advance. But do you think he was like, I can't risk any more at the moment? And he was just, or did he know that Frank? Could he maybe have played a couple more? The bench was stacked. Could he have played Kulu, Maddison? I'm glad he didn't. But do you think do you think he's gone this week and gone? We're picking up a couple 100%. More injuries.
I reckon if Odegaard and Richarlison and he would have played a few more of them. He could not afford another injury.
So at the moment we are missing Son, Odegaard, Richarlison,
and possibly Udogie.
Udogi's fine,
and obviously Dragusin is suspended.
He's fine now though.
But for last night's game, he's not available. And obviously Spence as well is.
That's still weird.
And then I agree. So you've got 6 players there that could have that would have been part of the travelling squad. That would have been, and actually, when I talk about sort of wanting this level of rotation, being sort of, I want to be 80-ish%. Not when I say first team, I don't mean first 1 to 11. We've got probably 16 players that are pretty much interchangeable. I then leave the sort of 4 teenagers on the next rung in who are clearly going to be brilliant or could be really good, but they kind of filter in. But you've got 16 sort of first team players.
Well, as Daz says here, the evolution of the squad is real. The backup players are now young and hungry, and on paper will all be future first 11 players. Like you say, it's different to your Skips, Winks.
No, hold on.
But they know.
Skip and Winks. Spurs,
I'm just plucking names.
Spurs boys.
More Lamella and Dombele.
It's like you're talking about Matt Doherty, who've got no
Sessegnon,
They've got no sort of like real link to the club apart from they're employed there. And they're all right, Thursday night away to French, whatever, mate. Skip and Winks obviously did want to do well because they did. They were top. I get that.
So I think it's unfair to follow Leicester.
Pardon?
Looks like you should be going to follow Leicester.
God.
Over land and sea.
But what I'm saying is like, I've always said that with the youngsters they want to do it. I'd rather have, and also often youngsters will come through from say they've been the under-21 team. They actually have a bit of a relationship that they've played with. So often one of the things that Johnny was laughing on the way in because obviously I used the word disjointed. Relating to when you do mix the team,
and that didn't feel disjointed.
It didn't feel as disjointed. Maybe it is because you've got four 4 of the players there were under 18s and playing actual football.
But I also wonder, we've got a manager now. Well, actually, I'll come back to Daz's next point. We've got a manager now who there's a style, we know the style, and all the players are buying into it. And he wanted them to go out there and do that job. Maybe your Contes and Mourinho's, they get to Ferencváros, Pacos Ferreira away. They spent very little time on the game. It's like you just go out and I'm thinking about Sunday.
Better teams would have lost that last night or not won with much more quality players in.
You reckon?
100%. We've lost, as you say, like Pacos Ferreira, and I know we drew with like
there was better Spurs teams.
Better Spurs teams would have
better being more experienced.
That Moura game when we lined up with Ali started, Kane, Moura, Lucas Moura, that is, and Dombele.
They scored a goal that was disallowed. That was pretty close.
Bit odd.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
No. So it was. His knee was a couple of inches offside, but. Yeah, so we could have gone 1-0 down easily. We were a bit on the ropes in that first 20 minutes. We grew into the game. We scored a goal at a good time. But we know how easily things can change. We can see the penalty against Karabag. So we'd have had a man sent off in that game. So you can stumble up in these games.
Yeah.
Stumble up. Trip up.
Daz makes a good point. Ange's ability to clean out squads is a big part of what he does. He did it at Brisbane. Someone was talking to me, an Australian was talking to me. I think it was Craig Moore he had somewhere. Daz might be able to correct me, and he got rid of him, and Craig Moore was like, "Why are you getting rid of me?" And then I think Craig got back in Ange's coaching staff, and he then understood why Ange got rid of him. It's all about evolution. He's not afraid to make big decisions. But Barney makes the point, maybe because I assume they being some of these players played against Coventry. Of course, it's all about minutes, and it might not have looked as disjointed as we'd have thought because these guys are getting integrated into the team a lot more. Talking of more, listen, you talked to me about being a pessimist. Yeah, I probably am. I don't like to get too excited on players until I've seen them. Like, I've heard all this stuff about Mikey Moore, but for me, it's about the eye test. And you sometimes get these players and you're like, not as good as I thought. This guy has come in, his full debut. He's got kicked the first time he got the ball by 3 players all in one. He's a talent.
Do you know who he reminded me of? I couldn't help but think.
Lionel Messi?
No. Young Jack Grealish. Couldn't help.
Low centre of gravity.
Low centre of gravity.
Good shift both ways.
The way he went over to the left and he did the same thing. As you say, he got fouled in the first 2 minutes. Didn't give a shit. Got straight back up. Went at him again. Should have had an assist. Absolutely brilliant.
We'll come on to later.
A few longer shots, which were probably a little bit naive. He had there was a few wild volleys from 25 yards out that he shouldn't have taken on. But
don't care. But fine.
Excited.
Fine.
Loved that. Loved the guts and ability just to go bring it on kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was a good performance by him, and it's really impressive for a 17-year-old.
Yep.
I mean, I'd like to say Yamal's winning European Cup, so what's Moore been doing all this time? Get on with it, mate.
Get on with it. Other kids, I thought Lancashire has bulked up. He looks strong. Difficult position to play centre forward on your own when you're so young. Thought he was a handful.
Yeah,
could have scored, but got into those positions.
He seemed to physically
cope,
be more up for it than what we saw from Dane Scarlett a few years ago.
I was thinking it on the way in,
Conference
actually.
League. And Parrott started maybe it was even a League Cup game against Colchester. He seemed to physically be able to handle it more than those two. And I know that was only one game, but I'd definitely have him starting games in Europa League.
Scarlett's been on the bench for Oxford quite a lot, and he was on the bench again on Tuesday night. Thanks to Luton for ruining my accumulator. 2-0 up. See that guy get sent off after coming off sub 60 seconds later. Yeah. Not even. Anyway, Scarlett's been on the bench for Oxford, and some people, bring him home to do what? He's not. I'm afraid. I don't think he's going to make it here. But Lancashire really looked a player.
It really does show you the level of attrition that trying to become a Premier League footballer. If you think you wind back a few years, and Scarlett and Skip were lauded by Mourinho as being. These guys are going to go all the way, and unfortunately, they've just their career hasn't. And
listen, they'll make it.
The one that's actually got going the most is Parrott.
The
one that's kicked off the most is Parrott, who obviously we're playing against next. He's playing in Europe. Scored 20 goals in Holland last year.
He scored 4 a couple of weeks ago.
Got 4. They won 9-1.
And obviously playing against us in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, but he's not great. And the other young Bergvall, I thought. Possibly try too hard, possibly because of the 3.5 minutes he got against Karabag. I think he was maybe trying a bit hard. There's obviously a player there. Don't at me and tell me I want him sold. There's obviously a player there. of the four, I didn't think he had the best game. And Gray, I think he's brilliant. As Ange said, he's played in 2 different positions last night.
He did this thing in the corner.
Yeah.
Led to I can't remember what chance. Maybe it was the Brennan Johnson one that hit the bar. And he was going back, and I was thinking, what are you going to do? You might have to give away a corner because don't go back to Vicario on his left foot. And he just, the guts to, and the quality and the skill to do that.
He did
amazing.
And that was a 1-0, wasn't it?
He flicked
it.
That was a 1-0.
Yeah, that was a 1-0.
He flicked around the corner.
Oh, amazing.
And then, Gray, I think was, and more will take the headlines, but Gray was, I think actually
play anywhere.
Yeah, but that's obviously a risk in itself because you want him to now hone in on. You want to start honing in on.
Yeah, but in terms of, I think it protects Van der Ven, and obviously with Dragusin out, him playing at centre back just does us a huge favour, don't it?
But if you think we bought him as a right back or number 6, and last night he's played centre back and left back, it's pretty impressive stuff. But you can see he just looks like a footballer.
Yeah,
and that's what we're. It's good to see that we're signing footballers. There's a technical ability that we're going for.
Big time.
Ronnie makes a point, jumping ahead a little bit, but we will do it. Son pulled out of career squad. Seems serious. I don't know if it's serious, but this is Tottenham Hotspur. You never know.
I'd probably say that seems less serious, the fact that he's pulled out. They're being, precautionary and
I don't know.
A bit cautious.
Yeah, I'd hope it's more cautious than it's because it's a serious injury. You never know with Tottenham, but the fact that Ange said he wanted to train after the Karabag, don't know. But
he's probably not going to play.
I think it's right to think he never pulls out of international squad, so maybe...
And he always plays 90 minutes against Uzbekistan and Bangladesh when they're 7-0 up, so his body could probably do with the rest.
100%, so he does get 2 weeks, so hopefully, what we got after West Ham at home, I mean...
Then Europa League, so
it
should be all right.
Yeah.
2 weeks rest.
Good day, boys, from Paul Machiavelli. Good day, Paul. Ronnie, more please over Werner. We are going to come to that. We definitely will. When we talk about Brighton, we were going to talk about the more
We've taken a huge segue away from the. So we've gone through the team, but it was a rocky first 20 minutes, 100% last night.
But you've got the changes, young players.
I think Glenn Hoddle was making people sound like it was worse than it was.
He was.
He was fuming when their goal was disallowed.
I don't know
if you listen to it carefully. But
I think partly because he thought the goal was disallowed because the guy in the middle of the
when it wasn't,
and they had the old school VAR rather than sort of the semi-automatic, whatever it's called. So the guy was offside, but it was very unclear until half time as to why it was offside. And I think we're all football fans and lovers that. Of football and hating probably VAR generally, that when there's no communication about VAR, it's deeply frustrating. So I think Hoddle being old school that way, but he was certainly very, very critical of us and our defence and our style.
Yeah, I think overly critical. I think Rakesh, big up Rakesh. I think they soon worked out that Ben Davies was the weak link.
Well, there was that one ball over the top early. It got smashed to diagonal.
Yeah, that Vargas, the centre forward, who...
And there's the one with Vicario. The ball's from the left over towards our left. That seemed to be the ball they were playing. And, Ben Davies says, it'll come back to the same thing. Teams will sit there and be like, well, Ben Davies and Timo Werner.
Yeah, they realised our left side was definitely...
I don't know about you lot, but they had a guy called Adama Traore, didn't they?
Oh,
and it kept scaring the life out of me, thinking, God, this guy's going to be frighteningly quick, and then he wasn't. It was so deceiving the whole game.
I was like,
oh shit, Adama Traore's in again. He's going to have Davis on toast, and then he wasn't that quick.
Honestly,
it was bizarre. Getting like flashbacks to games away at Wolves when we're 1-up and
Wolves and Dombele
running all over the shop.
I was at Neto, he just couldn't be bothered to chase.
Unbelievable. No, but I had that exact same thought.
All right, so we did wait. We didn't ride a storm, but we scored at a very, very good time.
Correct.
Bergvall gets an assist. Do you want to talk about assists?
Was it actually his assist?
Yeah, he's been given an assist. I mean, again, that comes back to me not being sure about assists. Might do a whole PowerPoint presentation about this one day. But listen, they were all involved. All the kids were involved. And that's great.
Right, he put that ball
to Lancashire.
Lancashire sort of flicked it on.
And then
Bergwijn making a third man run is great.
And then you could make this goal sound amazing. It's a 17-year-old. He flicks it into the 19-year-old striker who plays it into Bergvall, who flicks it. God knows what he does. Lays it off to Sarr.
And their defenders, their number 3, so confused. He's looking the other way, doesn't know which way to run. The ball kind of rides behind him. You know when there's a glitch on FIFA,
Yes.
and then the sort of defender runs away from the ball. It was like that, and then Saar buried it in the bottom corner.
Great finish though, and he's
Well, a good
his
finish.
play was generally a bit clunky. Saar.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned it a few times. His ball retention, he's very careless on the ball, and I thought that was really good. It was really, clinical, lovely touch, lovely finish.
I have to mention Rakesh here, big friend of the show. Whoever turns in, smash the like button to cater to a bigger audience. You're right. Like, subscribe, become a member, do all of that stuff. Phil Cornwell, fantastic experience for the youngsters. Is that Phil Cornwell, the older comedian who was in Alan Partridge? Was that his name, Phil Cornwell?
If it is,
If it is you, Phil, you're coming on, mate. Or have you just got the same name as Phil Cornwell? I've seen you in our comments before, and I've never asked, so maybe that is the famous Phil Cornwell. I hope it is.
We'll have to check the small print on his contract.
Yeah. All right. We are in a minute. This is live, as we mentioned. We're going to have Adam Virgo on, former Brighton player, Spurs fan. We are going to come to him in about 5 minutes. So we'll just finish the chat on last night before we do. We needed to go 2-0 up. We didn't need. We didn't need to because we won 2-1.
Felt like it was waiting to go 1-1.
But we had that chance with Porro. I thought was going to get a penalty, hits the post. We had a few other chances. And you're away from home. Doesn't matter again who you're playing. You kind of he's not. That's not the same Phil Cornwell. What a shame. But great to have you. Great to have you here, Phil. And we did.
Ultimately, we were just waiting for Brennan Johnson to come on.
Right. Okay. So let's do that. Brennan Johnson comes on. He chucked the cavalry on a little bit. 5 in 5. This time on his left foot.
Nearly
Well,
scored.
hold on.
Nearly scored.
If we're going to talk about
screamer.
the Brennan Johnson story and the sort of rise to this goal scoring phenomenon. I mean, look at the chance. Not even a chance. Calling it a chance would be the half chance before, but the confidence for him to hit the ball first time, coming across him, and then obviously hits the bar. But what a brilliant shot. Absolutely brilliant, and that is all the confidence and happiness and the smile on his face. Obviously, his dad again was in the away crowd, and it's like what a great story, and that's just to show that the confidence comes through. So yeah,
that to me almost felt more significant than the goal. I know that sounds a bit mad. The way he took that on. Weeks ago, he wouldn't have taken it on. He would have taken it down the line, tried to get a cross in. And the fact that he hit it first time, and I was so gutted that didn't go in. I know he scored eventually, but I was watching that and I couldn't help but think that just shows.
Well, you've got two shots. One first time right foot, but the goal
to take it in on his left.
That's confidence.
Yes, that is
confidence.
confidence.
Has he scored a goal with his left foot? God, I'm going to make it look stupid now when
Possibly a tap in, but no, this run's all been right foot, isn't it?
It's all right foot.
5 in 5. First player, obviously, to do that since Harry Kane. I think he scored in his last 5 games for us.
Yeah, he did.
The last player to score 6 was Kane in 2018-19, which was scored in a run and leading up in the League Cup semi-final against Chelsea. The 1-0 win at home was the last. Was that at Wembley? Yeah.
I think it was a pen.
And then I forgot that he missed that. He missed the second leg
because Llorente played and scored.
Yeah, and Kane had got injured playing against Man United at Wembley when we battered them. No. And De Gea saved everything. And Phil Jones, I don't think it was on purpose.
And he got injured in the last minute.
Last kick.
Anyway, 5 in a row, brilliant.
5 in a row.
Something we didn't see coming.
No, and hopefully Sunday he'll make it 6. A couple of other comments. Bergvall from Padani82. Bergvall did not have his best game, but a good thing is that he's not afraid to take up positions and demand the ball. Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully it's mainly a question of getting fit enough for his position. I don't know if it's fit enough. I think it's just these are the big leagues now. He's been.
I think of the youngsters, he's probably got the most to learn, sort of about the what's the word, the wherewithal of big boy football. You know, I think
he's come from Sweden as well.
Yeah, I think he's coming from the lowest. No disrespect, but even sort of Mikey Moore and Lancashire playing under 21 English football is still a really high level.
They've played the EFL
and they're playing
trophy
physical,
as well. That's, League Two football. That's a lot better than
I think Bergvall's got probably the most to learn in terms of like game management and we noticed. Actually, I noticed under the Man United, you wouldn't have seen it, but he came on with 15 to go.
Heard he was a bit naive.
Who's that?
I saw him take on a shot.
Yeah, he took on,
Bergvall.
I'm still talking about Bergvall.
3-0 up, but yeah.
By the way, talking about the youngsters and then the sort of vision of Ange on the sidelines wearing that sort of anorak, it did feel like your dad
School.
watching on the side of the game. But he's obviously watching his kids now, says,
You can tell how proud he is as well, can't you?
Someone tried to call them Angie's Angels, and he wasn't having that.
I saw that.
No, what nonsense that is. Message from Liam, Aussie fan, been watching other pods, discovered you guys last week. My favourite analysis. You are correct. You boys are the best. You boys are the best. Correct. Big up. Cheers, Liam. Yeah, I think he's probably right. Good analysis from Liam there. Our favourite analysis.
Can we just add on the that last night's game, Vicario last sort of 3-4 weeks come under a lot of criticism, and he looks, I'm sure he'll chuck one in at Brighton now. I have to say that.
Like the Reece did.
He looks really good.
He's coming off his line.
Really good. Yeah, he is.
But they work on it. They clearly.
But he's made some amazing saves as well.
The fingertip really one from the fingertip one in the sort of first part of the second half down to his left was very good.
Yeah.
The one early on was absolute scream.
But he is commanding his box. He's even in the last minute he didn't get the he actually didn't collect the ball, but he's still trying to give the defence confidence that I'm coming off my line and I'm going to do it.
Which is what you need when you're away from home and it won't go up.
Message from SGP, top quality Spurs pod. Well done, lads. Thank you, SGP. Like I say to all of you, like, subscribe, bit of money in this wonderful LaunchPod studio. We're very lucky here at LaunchPod studio. James, our producer. Get out. Well, you said till 11, mate. We're going to chat Brighton in a minute, but just finish this game off. We did concede, whatever. We've won. To go away anywhere in Europe and win, we know is not easy.
Hopefully.
Yeah, all right. This question from Dystopia Eats Money. It's been on before. Can Ange be persuaded to drop Forster from the Carabao Cup? Yeah, he's not playing Forster
the
against
fact
Man
that
City.
No way.
Who was that? Was that Vicario?
It was me.
The picture popped up on our screen. That looks like Nick Pope.
Who is it, James?
Look like Nick Pope.
I don't think Pope will start.
Liam, because you have a delicate mix of humour and sound analysis, and you aren't as moany as other Spurs fans. Oh, you obviously didn't hear me. Didn't hear me. You obviously joined recently, Liam.
Post Arsenal.
Was post Newcastle. That was the one. Good job, Gary's not here. Always keeping it positive. You're right, Liam. If we lose to Brighton, maybe give next week a miss.
Yeah, Liam, you're seeing the public persona of Johnny and myself.
No, listen, it can't be anything other than positive. It's not easy to go away in Europe. We've got 6 points now. They reckon, I don't know who they are, reckon 14 to 16 points probably gets you through. You win all our home games.
A lot of the top teams, though, like United 2 points. I think Roma lost to the Swedish team. We've actually got to play
Elfsborg.
They've got 1 point. Porto, I think, have got one or none. So
Well, I sent you
we're
the
quite
league,
clear of that.
I sent you the league table, but you know when you sort of do this screenshot on your phone, it's like.
Well, at work yesterday. So at work yesterday, they got a camera. It's called I think it's called a jib camera, which is really high. James might be able to know more about this than me. Adam. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, the cameraman's got to start all the way up, and it's like,
it's ridiculous.
Right, hang on. As we're live, get your headsets in, boys. We have got a guest on, former Brighton player and Spurs fan, Adam Virgo. We are going to talk to him when he gets connected up. But listen, it's important to win your away games. Takes the pressure off. Is he on? Here he is.
Morning, boys.
I better turn my headset on. I can hear him. I can't hear him, actually.
Can you hear me?
Adam, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm fine. How are you? Can you hear me?
Can't hear him at the moment. We'll talk amongst
I
ourselves.
can hear you, Johnny.
You can hear me.
Can you hear me?
I think he needs to turn his mic on. No, he's got his Celtic top in the back. He was a remember Paul Warhurst?
Yeah.
Could play up front and centre half. I can't hear him. They can hear him.
Very much a 90s thing of football, being a centre forward and a centre back.
Our guest can hear him,
Hello.
James, but we can't hear him. Adam, can you speak? Can't hear him, James. Funny that the guests can hear Adam, but us in the studio.
Why don't we just let the guest have it out?
Like the guest just interview him.
You can't hear me?
Now we can hear you.
Morning.
How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
And there's the 91 shirt.
Oh, he's got his 91 Spurs shirt. Is that menu from us, James, on his screen, or is it from him?
It's such a good football shirt. That
Well, there is. There you go. Gone. Right, Adam. Thank you for joining us. We've got the
No worries
stuff
at all.
out
Sorry
of the way.
about that.
As I introduced you, former Brighton Celtic centre half / centre forward at times, Spurs fan. So thank you for having us on. Sorry, thank you for having us. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to go straight in with your Brighton and your Spurs hat on. Give me your assessment at the start of the season for both teams, really.
Yeah, for Brighton, I think it's been an okay start. I think with the change of manager, you're never too sure how his style is going to be implemented onto the side. I think a young manager, it was a brave decision from Tony Bloom to go and find Fabian to bring him in. But I think with Brighton, that you always do see with new managers that do come in, there's a big stability at the club, right through from the youth all the way through to the first team. You know, finances aren't a problem. The transfer system they use isn't a problem. And the players have adapted slowly to the way that he wants to play. But there are still areas I think that they will certainly need to improve on, especially defensively, trying to find more clean sheets. But I think overall for Brighton, I think they'll be pleased with the start that they've made. And for Tottenham, I think it's been an okay start. I think the goals that we've scored, I think when you look against Brentford, a brilliant performance against Manchester United, and even last night, you know, Ange brings in the youngsters, blended with the right experience. I've been there before. Those senior pros get you through those games and the occasion, and it was a good account of themselves. And I'm really pleased to see Brennan Johnson now finding some form, because I know he mixes opinions, but I'm really pleased that now he's scoring goals with his performances.
In terms of Brighton, I mean, the Hertzler's been here a couple of months. Has there been a change to the De Zerbi style, or is it similar? Or is it? I mean, Ange has been here now 18 months. We know the style, but it's still taking tweaks to get it right. I mean, are we going to see the same? I mean, it's playing a high line with Duncan Webster at centre half, which is, for me, you can do that with Spurs. You've got Romero and Van der Ven. I watched the Chelsea game. They're playing with Duncan Webster on the halfway line. Is that the style that Hertzler is trying to implement?
Yeah, so in a simple form, what he wants is the Brighton back line to be as high as possible to then close the space in the opposition half. And that's the difference, where De Zerbi, when you saw Brighton play out from the back, they literally waited for the press to happen, and then they played through that press. And then what they were trying to create was one-on-ones further up the field. And that's when you saw, especially the season when they got to the FA Cup semi-final and the season they finished in Europe, that was a massive plan of their play. It is risky because I don't think that the centre halves that they've got, that's really suits their game. But if you look at Fabian last season for St. Pauli, I think they had the best defensive record. But seeing the way that Brighton have been defensively this season, there is that high line, that high press. I went to the Villarreal game in pre-season and I saw it then, and I thought, this is going to be brave. And I think the one thing I think that they've looked at sometimes is just a game management during the game, where they may just have to drop back a couple of yards, and they don't. They just keep high and they keep pressing all the time. And I think, unfortunately, I mean, I don't know if Sonny's going to be fit, but
doesn't look like it.
If you had him and Odobert on either flanks, then I'd even question just to drop Dominic and then play the pace down the middle and out wide, because Brighton are so vulnerable at the back. It won't happen because of the injuries, but that's an area that Tottenham have to utilise.
Adam, I want to ask you about Bissouma. Obviously, he's been very hit and miss since he joined Spurs two summers ago. More miss than hit, and obviously he's had some off the field problems as well. He was back in the team last night. He looks to have lost his place to Bentancur in the Premier League team. But with Bentancur, facing a potential massive ban, he's going to become a really key player for Spurs domestically. What have you sort of made of him since he joined Spurs, and how good do you think he can be under Ange?
Yeah, I mean, I saw quite a bit of him in France because I was fortunate enough to do the French league. So I kind of knew about him. And when he came into Brighton, he brought that energy. I think under Conte, for whatever reason, I just think that when you're a player and you join a new club, you just want to be involved and you want to play games. I think when it's very, very stop-start and you're not building that momentum, it's very, very difficult to gain confidence. And you look at Brennan Johnson now, he's getting a run of games, which is going to massively help him. When he finds goals, that helps with confidence. I think the off-the-field antics, I think, could be affecting him, because it's plain to see that how you conduct yourself off the field can sometimes affect the way that the manager sees you when you come into training. Are you completely concentrated on the club? But I saw periods of him last season where I thought he was excellent under Ange, and I thought there's a really good moment where he came back into the sides and he played really well. So I think Tottenham fans have seen he's in that potential, that what he can show. But listen, this is going to be, I think, a big moment for him in his Tottenham career, that, you know, if he does get those run of games, it's not going to be the now is the time, but this will be a massive pivotal part of his career as a Tottenham player if he can get those games and get those performances. But unfortunately, we just haven't seen that consistency from him since he signed from Brighton.
Adam, hi. Rewind back a year ago, and the world was shouting about De Zerbi as Brighton manager, as one of the hottest prospects. Evan Ferguson up front, and Mitoma as well. Come to a year hence, you know, obviously De Zerbi's now at Marseille, but where do the aspirations really lie for Brighton? Because it seems there's been quite a lot of dramatic loss of form of those big players who were basically the biggest prospects in amongst the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, if you'd have said to me 18 months ago that Roberto De Zerbi would be the manager of Marseille, I would have said you're mad. I think his stock was so high. And when he got Brighton into the Europa League in that FA Cup semi-final, you know, he had the biggest clubs in Europe chasing after him. The way that Brighton were playing and how they conducted themselves. I think last season, I think Europe was a massive learning curve for the club, because I think that they felt who they signed was enough to be competitive in the Premier League and also in Europe. And I think that Roma game, which I was fortunate enough to cover, I think was a massive learning curve, that these players that come in now at Brighton, if you want to be competitive in Europe and you want to be competitive in the Premier League, they have to have an element of impact. And I think that's the massive thing about that. And I think with Mitoma, again, I think the way that Brighton were playing, I think affected his form, injuries as well. And he's played a lot of games. He's a key component to the way that they play. I think frustratingly, he'll probably score more goals than maybe he's shown in his statistics. But I think it's important for him, because I think Brighton always tend to lose their key players over the summer. That stops momentum. I think for the first time I can remember in a long time where they haven't really lost a key player. The manager goes, and I think that almost came to the end of the road anyway. And I think that was the right timing. But I think for the first time in a while that they haven't lost key players. And they've signed a lot this season. It's probably the first time they've gone out and actually spent the money that they've received for all these players. And I think they've now built a squad that could be competitive for Europe. And if they do get into Europe next season, then they only need to sign one or two to then go again. So I think that the learning curves that they made last season has made a massive impact on this season as well.
Just for our viewers who may not know, Ad, you played over 150 times for Brighton. You made your debut in a Football League trophy game at home to Brentford. But I believe it was played at Brentford because Brighton had no home, and then you were played at the Withdean. You had a couple of spells at the club. How different, I mean, it's obvious, but explain the difference and what's Tony Bloom done to this club? How different is it to the club that you played for?
Johnny, I can't explain to you the difference, what it was. Like, we used to train at the university. So we used to go into the gym and there would be 18-year-old students in there, and you have to wait to use the machines because they're using it. Our canteen was shared with the uni students. We had to wash, I'm saying, but we had to wash our own kits, clean our own boots, you know, share car lifts to ground sometimes because we couldn't afford buses. The Withdean was just, I mean, it was just one of those grounds that was surrounded by an athletics track. There was a pub there. The board of directors room was a converted nursery. So I remember when we used to play, like, I always remember playing Derby. And Fabrizio Ravanelli, almost, because you had to go down these like concrete steps, he almost fell arse over face because he had these metal studs on. And I always just remember him looking around the ground thinking, what the hell am I doing here? He just couldn't believe the surroundings of the Withdean. And we found enough, and I thought, in fairness, that was a reason why Brighton did so well. Because I think a lot of clubs came to our ground and thought, what are we doing here? And we never used that as an excuse. And you know, the finances now, I mean, the training ground is totally different. You know, we used to have to train on public parks sometimes because the pitches were so heavily waterlogged. You know, our warm-up was sometimes clearing up some of the dog poo or clearing up some of the glass to kind of just get a bit of space.
That is Sunday League
ground.
stuff.
So
that is Sunday
that's
League.
how much the club has changed massively. But I think the club had to go through that to kind of get to where they are today, to kind of go through those really, really bad times to appreciate the times that they have now. It's a fantastic time to be at the club. I always said I was at the club at the wrong time, but it's one of those things that I'm really, really pleased to see how they're doing. It's amazing how far that they've come. But yeah, I mean, the physio Malcolm used to bring his dog into training. You know, it was just like it was a greyhound that used to sit in the corner. I've got ridiculous. I mean, I could do another hour just to.
Or maybe we will one
We
day.
we had to paint the own physio room. When we were injured, Mickey Adams didn't like players being injured, so he used to make us stay in there till 5 o'clock. And sometimes we get to 2 and there's nothing to do. And then Malco, right, this needs painting. You know, you end up painting some of the rooms and stuff in the physio room. It's just mad to what it was then to what it is today. But you know, that's where the stories come from in the past. But yeah, I mean, that's just a little bit of how much the club's changed.
Always like when we get ex-players on, like to ask the best player you've played with. I noticed that Bobby Zamora scored in that game against Brentford on your debut. How good was he? And who is the best player you ever played with and against?
Yeah, Bobby was one of those ones. You know, we probably had him a season too long and went on to Tottenham. And I think he said held a Postiga when at the same time, and that's probably hampered him in terms of getting an opportunity and chance. I probably look at my Celtic days. I mean, I went into that squad with, you know, John Hartson, Chris Sutton, Shunsuke Nakamura. But the best player I ever played with was Stan Petrov. He was outstanding in terms of his goals from midfield. And I think people always look at the SPL and think, you know, how can these players do in England? He went down to Villa and absolutely bossed it in that midfield area. And he's been through a lot personally and he's come out the other side. And to me, that shows the character that he is. He's absolutely outstanding. And I'd probably say one player that might surprise you was Dean Ashton. I honestly, I played against him when he was at Crewe when he was young, and then he went to West Ham, and I thought he was an outstanding striker that just unfortunately just had some really, really, really bad injuries that hampered his career. I know people might be surprised that I say that, but yeah, I was fortunate enough to play against Tottenham in the FA Cup in 2003, I think it was, at White Hart Lane, which for me was just an absolute dream come true.
Yeah, Jake remembers every game. So
Robbie Keane scored a bicycle kick volley.
Do you know what? I was in such a different. I thought I know we're not going to win the FA Cup, so I kind of want Tottenham to go and win the FA Cup. In the back of my mind, I thought if we can get a draw, that means I can get another game against Tottenham. And then he goes and scores that goal at the end. But you know, I played against Jermaine Defoe that day. Big fan of his, and Robbie Keane, Michael Carrick. You know, Carrick's probably another one that just reads the game very, very well in that midfield area. But that was a unique day for me because I didn't know what to do because it was just like I was just lost with emotion, really. But a day that I'll never forget.
Well, you got the Spurs. Is that the 91 shirt behind you? Very nice. Two Spurs. Yeah, Celtic and 2 Spurs. Very nice. Come on,
the 91 was kindly signed by Paul Gascoigne. I met him 3 or 4 years ago, and he's my hero. That's why I support Tottenham. He was the best player in the Italian 90 World Cup, and I just fell in love with England and Tottenham then. And I said, who does he play for? He was at Tottenham. My favourite goal of all time was his free kick against Arsenal in the FA Cup semi-final. I'll never, ever forget that. And then there's another shirt that Clive Allen got for me, signed nicely by Dele Alli and Kim Min Son. So, little touches of Tottenham in the background that always makes me smile.
Nice. So with your Spurs hat on, maybe I know you're local to Brighton, but quick prediction for Sunday's game?
I think Tottenham will win. I think they'll win. I think I'll be amazed if it's 0-0. I know there will be goals.
We don't do 0-0.
I thought we were excellent against Manchester United, and I thought, you know, we saw a clinical side. I saw a different side of us defensively, which was really, really good to see. But the only thing that worries me, I don't think we've got the best record at Brighton.
No.
I think
last year
I went once when Harry Kane scored and he booted that Coke bottle afterwards, and then I was at the 4-1 last season. I think I went to the one where Lloris almost lost his arm when he made that save, and we never tend to do there. But I think the way that Tottenham are and that consistency, the 5 wins in 5, I think we can come away with a win.
Well, we hope so on this pod, obviously. Adam, thank you so much for joining us. Great to talk to you, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
Cheers, boys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Adam. Cheers, mate. Take your headset off now. That was good.
Brilliant.
I
love the way he was referring us to us. Spurs,
yeah, I've always known I was a Spurs fan. I always knew he was a Spurs fan, but sometimes you never know these pundits want to out themselves as fans. But he couldn't really. He's got 2 Spurs. Couldn't not. He's got 2 shirts behind him.
Do you know what? Imagine these like pundits like being fans of clubs like Neville and Carragher. You never know who they support.
Do you know? I've got to be careful.
That Brighton FA Cup game. I don't know if anyone will know in the comments, but I'm pretty sure that was the only game I ever went to at White Hart Lane where there was away fans in the West Stand.
Okay, well, when was this?
This was the
don't
game.
remember this
There was
game.
away fans in the West Stand
But
where
what
players
year is
used
this?
like 2003,
Okay,
just the
so-
West Lower.
It wasn't. He said 03. It wasn't. It was 05, actually.
But I'm pretty sure
King and
there was a
Keane.
wave that a guy called maybe Carpenter scored a free kick for them,
Oh, my God.
and I
How do you know
remember it
this stuff?
so clearly.
This
And I
is-
remember.
Go on.
I remember thinking like as a kid, and then I saw it a few years later because you get the there's that account on Twitter that posts all on
Every
the
Spurs
dates.
goal, yeah.
Oh,
Oh
on
no,
the
no,
day,
yeah, but
the
there's
Every
another
Spurs
one
goal's
with
great
Hotspur
as well.
memories, and I was like thinking, I remember that as a kid. So when we get off the show, we'll look, and I'm pretty sure there was away fans in the West Lower.
Richard Carpenter scored for Brighton. Jake,
Richard
my job
Carpenter.
as a football statistician is to remember this stuff. I don't remember that. Ledley King and Robbie Keane,
Yeah, Keane
scored
a
either
beauty
side
of
of
a
it.
volley.
Dean Marnie and Mark Yeats played for Spurs. Some great
Oh,
names.
bloody hell.
They had Leon Knight playing for them. Do you remember him? I
Yes.
think he was at Chelsea for a bit. They didn't. Why do I care about this? They didn't make a sub. Anyway,
So what round of the cup was
that
this?
was
must
the
have been
third
third.
round. You want to know what happened to us after that, don't you, Ollie? I know you do.
2000.
It
It
was
was
405.
I remember beating Forest in a replay.
So that was the year that Santini got sacked and Yol came in.
Yeah, so Yoel's managed by his points is in January.
We lost
it's-
at Newcastle 1-0, having beaten Forest in a replay.
Oh God, I was up
Patrick
at
was
Newcastle.
quarter-final, wasn't it?
I was up.
Kluivert.
I was up in the quarter. I was up at that game, and
Quarter-final.
Kluivert scored after about 5 minutes, and
Yes.
we dominated
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Should have had a penalty. Obviously,
Only
'cause it's
no fan
Newcastle.
base remembers should have had pens more than us. In
Yeah,
any
I
season.
did a weekend at in Newcastle, and it was good fun.
No wonder why you can't remember much. Right.
Yeah.
Really good to talk to Adam. We'll come on to Brighton briefly. Just a couple of other comments. Stratton Kohlberg is not a fan of Werner. Werner is not great. Might need to end that loan in January. Is that possible? Don't know. I just suspect we won't. It's another body.
Not with Europe as well. Quite
Yeah.
a few more games.
Yeah,
in Europe.
there's
and now
2 games
Son's
in
been
January.
injured and
Yeah. All right. George Donikian. Hello, guys. I love the reminiscing, but you don't go back far enough. Well, watching from Melbourne, getting ready to launch of the new Australian-made Pushcast documentary. We are hoping to have Mickey Hazard on the show on Monday. If you want to go back far, that takes us back to the 70s and 80s. So we'll be going back there on Monday. Liam, George in the chat was the former president of the South Melbourne Angie's original club. Right, well, George, we're going to get you on, mate, for a chat. Phil Cornwall, has Glenn Hoddle got a grudge against Ange? I worked with Glenn. I was
He
at
was a bit
TNT
harsh
last night.
last
I
night.
didn't hear his commentary. Yeah, a little bit negative. I worked with Glenn. He loved. Don't get me wrong. I saw some comments on Twitter. Glenn Hoddle
just check
loves.
his reaction to Lucas Moore as well.
He loves Tottenham more than anything, and maybe at the moment he's not fully Ange in. I
Or
don't
maybe
know.
he's trying to go so the other way and not come across biased.
Yeah,
Quite possibly. That's a very good
He's
point.
gone so far one way. It's now like he's coming across as anti-Tottenham.
But I think a lot of the Spurs pundits make a sort of try and actually be like we are on this pod, like actually be quite balanced. But you have the Arsenal pundits, the United pundits, and the Liverpool pundits who are undeniably.
We don't really have that many, though. I thought
partisan.
We don't have that
G-
many.
G-
But
Genius
I think
used to be a bit-
Hoddle's comments last night were mainly to do with we're 2-0 up, 70 odd minutes on the clock. It's like 75 minutes on the clock. All right, close the game out, which we've discussed here as well. So there was that attack when I think they hit the goalie had the ball. And they just hit a long ball and they had a man completely free on the right hand side. And we'd pushed right up to the halfway line. There was a bit of like a game management, lads, because then that
Yeah,
guy had
no.
a clear run into our box. It's like we don't need to turn this into a cup game. So I think he was with that. So I don't think he was being critical.
But even
but
so,
there we are.
he mentioned that the team selection in the first 10 minutes and basically was like, well, you've got to go with your strongest team. And just taking a massive risk, not seeing the fact that we are literally down to the bare bones of attackers. We are one injury away from starting a 17-year-old.
Maybe
which
he's
I
just
know
a-
some people want to. We've got 3 attacking players out.
I get that. Maybe he's a nervous Spurs fan like the rest of us. Norman Stanley Fletcher, 70s and 80s now you're talking about. Yeah, like I say, we're hoping to have Mickey Hazard on. He has said he's coming on, but, don't want to say he is and then he isn't, but that's the plan.
Was the same last week for Karabakh.
Yeah.
By the way, on the comment, obviously we've had people on here from Australia talking about Ange, talking about the Melbourne thing, talking about Pushkas. For Ange itself last night was a really amazing thing for him because, it's explained to my dad and my son I was watching the game with, that Ange was Puskás was Ange's manager at South Melbourne, but then Ange used to drive him around and learn about football. So
big night for him.
a really big personal thing, and I think one of the comments Ange made in the lead up to the game, which I think is a really cool thing, just that real human element that we don't see a lot of in football. When he said, "I wish he was alive to see me now."
Yeah,
and there was
you could tell how much it meant.
Yeah,
to him,
that was cool. That was really cool. So.
Yeah, look, Hoddle wasn't on his best Spurs form last night, but let me tell you, he loves the club. I know he does. I work with him on a lot of Spurs games.
Minute one about the High Line.
He's probably talking about me there. Right, Brighton away. As Adam said, they're in a state of change. Their formation their lineup against Chelsea, the way they played was ludicrous.
I haven't actually watched them yet this season, Brighton. So
they're a difficult opposition. They've got some players. They'll still move the ball about. I don't know if Pedro's fit. He's been in and out of the team. Mitoma's a very good player.
I feel like this is a case of this could be anything.
Yeah.
We both score a lot. We both concede, they've won 3-0 Everton, 2-2 Forest, 4-2 Chelsea. We've had,
This is also kind of another Ange Arch moment in terms of, one of the low points of last season was being 4-0 down to them, having conceded 2 penalties. This is see how's that redemption looking, how we approach
this is a big game.
Yeah,
because I think if we win Sunday, even despite the poor start to the season, I'd say 13 from 7 is not bad.
Yeah,
considering we've played Newcastle, gone to Brighton, gone to United, and played Arsenal.
Last
I'd
time
say
we
that's
won,
not terrible with a run of home games.
Last time we won 6 in a row.
It's got to be Poch, hasn't it? Unless it was Jose with a load of Europa League.
It was October to November 2018, 6 in a row matches at Wembley, which included Inter and PSV in the Champions League. Brighton have let in 8 goals in 6 games, says Ronnie. 4 versus Chelsea, so only 4 in 5. Yeah,
we don't concede anymore though. So
I was going to pick you up on that, Jay. Actually, we don't concede anymore. Right,
we've got the second best defence in the league.
Do we?
We do.
Well,
only Liverpool are conceding fewer.
You stumped the football statistician who should know this.
And we also read, very, whether you put it high or low, but in terms of XG against. So the themes of our games is we're not conceding many chances,
and we're creating so many high XG chances.
Yeah, that's always
crazy. Crazy high.
The stats are good. Plus, we're running the most, and we're having, our average possession will be, near to 60%. So all of these things are going to hopefully show through a season that you're in a positive trajectory.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, come on, elephant in the room. Who starts left wing?
Reality is that everyone's going to be shouting more, but it will be Werner.
Yeah,
there's just nothing else he can do.
Because Brighton plays so high, I think a good team of Werner would be a brilliant asset on Sunday. We know he's not playing well. That chance he missed. The one-on-ones against Man United, you think, okay, it's not his thing. The one on Thursday, listen, one-on-ones are difficult.
That sounds like someone that is not very sporty and having to, participate in PE and go, oh, that's not really his thing. Give him. What? This guy scored 180 goals in.
All right. Am I still calling for Iraola to replace Ange? Don't call me fickle. I'm going to pick you up on this, Kellyo. I never, ever, for once said Ange would get the sack, or called for him to get the sack. I like Iraola. I think he's a good manager. Yeah, when we were going through 7 defeats in 11, I was a little bit unsure. Mate, I never once called for Ange to get the sack.
We just lost a bit of hope. I was the same.
Yeah,
we never wanted him out. We just lost a bit of hope.
When I was on with you before the season started, I said, look, Iraola is definitely a manager you would be looking at if the unthinkable happens. But no, we all want Ange to do well. We all want to, and yes, we were in a really bad period. We sort of got at the other side. We also know that things can change very quickly as well. So enjoy it while it is.
In that Coventry game, I was like, this just looks over. 85
it could have
minutes
been his
into
Mark
that
Robbins
Coventry game,
moment.
I was just like, this just looks over. I didn't want him to, because normally, when it got to the end of Conte, we've had enough. Nuno, don't get me started. Mourinho, we'd all had enough. So many managers you've had enough. And I hadn't had enough. I really was so desperate for him to turn it around. So desperate.
Do you know what it is?
By the way, it's not his Mark Roberts, it's his Brennan Johnson moment.
It's his Brennan Johnson moment. Do you know what it is? I love this football club. There's a fine line between love and hate sometimes. And when you've lost 7 games in a row.
Remember this when there's a couple of losses.
Remember this when there's a couple of losses and you're tempted.
We're not going to lose again.
Listen, you can come on here and have a go at me, fine. We've all We all support this club in different ways. I've been going there since 1987, spending a fortune. If I'm upset when we've lost 7 games out of 11, shoot me. And they've turned it around. And I will be happy when we win, and I will be critical when we lose. And that's football fans. If you don't like it, there are other podcasts that will tell you we're amazing every single week, even when we've lost. I know that's not what people are saying.
Or just get Gary Diamond back in.
or just get Gary Diamond back in. At the moment, it's great. We've won 5 in a row. And if we lose on Sunday, no, I'm not going to start reverting back to it's all over, because it's 1 win in 6 with 5 wins. But at the time, we were not playing well, and no one will be able to convince me otherwise.
And we are playing well.
And we are playing well now. And he has all I ever asked was for a plan B. There was a bit of a banter discussion on our YouTube comments this week. Is it plan A tweaked? Is it plan A now? If everyone's telling me it's still plan A.
It's good, whatever it is.
Whether it's plan A plus B, it's changing,
working.
and he's changing it, and it's working. And we were all told he would change it in the second season. I love it.
Looks like he's adapted slightly.
Great. And we will peak and trough. And when you lose 7 games in 11, I am entitled to be annoyed. And like you say, Coventry, it looked pretty dark. Right. Predictions for Sunday. I think Timo Werner will play. I think Ronnie just said
Is
the
there
same.
no chance? There's no chance that a player could not get called up for international duty and play.
Didn't Arsenal do that?
No, but like in terms
With
of
Gabriel?
like, the fact that Son's not being called up for games in
Could
2
play.
weeks, does that mean that he can't play Sunday? Because they might have come to an agreement that said, he's fine to play Sunday, but the last thing we need is him
Arsenal did
to
that
play.
with Gabriel. He didn't go to Brazil because he was tired and then played.
Arsenal have been like properly being shits about that for ages, and we definitely play a straighter bat as a club, and I think we take pride in our players being in international duty. There's no way Son is playing on Sunday and not for Korea.
I agree.
There'd be an absolute.
No.
Yeah, you're right, especially
no
him.
Way, no way.
So Son's out.
And I wouldn't want. I've always been an advocate of if you miss an international game, you should be missing the next game for your club.
You used to have to get a medical report from your club to prove you couldn't play.
With a muscle injury, I know we're desperate for him to play, and I know obviously the alternative's Werner. I'm happy for him to rest because we so badly need him fit for the November.
As long as it's literally he'll be back in 2 weeks' time.
I know you'd want some fit for Brighton away.
The point, we've got enough players to be able to rotate it for the occasional game. We don't need a hamstring injury for 3 months.
That's what I mean.
We can deal with one for 2-3 weeks.
Yeah,
we need to be more like Norman Stanley Fletcher.
Pretty
confident that we won't go forward. That's the positivity we need.
Yeah. Anyway, as your name says on here, I get it, but at the moment we're winning, so great. Right, prediction for Sunday, 6 in a row, maybe. Oliver?
3-2.
Spurs?
3-2 Spurs goals.
Yeah, lots of goals. Jake?
2-1.
Spurs.
I was going to go 2-2, but 2-1. Both teams to score, Tottenham to win.
Late comment from Glenn Maylard. Ange fan here. Did some quick research. Ange has not won anything at Spurs as manager, nor has Hoddle. Well, Ange, go do your Spurs research, mate. Most managers don't seem to win anything at Spurs.
Ange
always wins in his second season.
Didn't he once say that famously?
Going to win the Europa.
You might have heard it.
So 3-2, 2-1. I am going to. We've taken all the probable scores out. All right, let's reverse it from last year. 4-2 to Spurs.
There's going to be a lot of goals, isn't there?
Yeah.
But actually, you know what? Are we behind the narrative anyway? Because actually, we've just said that our XG against is really good. Our defensive record's really good. Maybe we're just going to go there and win 2-0 like professionally.
Okay.
No, we don't do that.
Quick, before we go, in big capital letters from Binny Guy, let Son rest for a while. He's been up and running for both club and country for a decade now. He deserves to get full rest, even if
I'm
his
pretty
injury
sure
may not
that
be
Son
serious.
plays more minutes of international football than anyone.
No, someone mentioned it was Romero.
No, Romero did most travelling miles.
Son, if you check back, you look at the opponents and scores, no disrespect to South Korea.
He's still
the guy
playing.
is playing 90 minutes 4 days before North London derby when they're 7-0 up against Uzbekistan. It's absolute. Why they haven't still got Klinsmann, have they?
No.
Absolute madness how much he plays. They never give him a rest for anything.
Right, as I always say, if we carry on any longer, I'm going to get a parking ticket outside. Paul G, just found your channel, like and subbed. Good man, Paul G. Tell
Watch
your friends,
back, Paul G.
tell your friends, your family, even your enemies, mate. Get like, subscribing, become a paid member, join the community, help us out here at An Echo of Glory, the wonderful Launchpod Studios. 3-1 to the Spurs on Sunday. It's a great note to leave it. Ollie, Jake, Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ollie, I'll see you next week. Jake, see you soon.
Werner hat-trick.
All right, we'll leave with Chino VCG. Werner hat-trick Sunday. We'll take that.
Chino, you're coming on if Werner scores a hat-trick.
Sounds like they want us to stay on, but we're not going to stay on. James wants us out. I don't want to get a parking ticket. We'll see you next week. And up the Spurs.